Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 23 of the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. We are so happy to see you guys, to have you guys here with us today and listening to us today. I am out in Harrison, actually. It was supposed to be cloudy and rainy today. But the sun's breaking out, so it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. I'm here with my main man, Geoff. Geoff, how are you, my man?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. How is Harrison? Have you hit the hot springs over there yet?
Well, no, you know what? We stay at the Harrison Beach Hotel, right smack dab in the middle. So we got a beautiful lake view. It's amazing. We actually just typically stay out in the lake, although my wife and I, we went up for a walk, and there's actually some hot springs that are super close over on the side. So we might take the kids up there. We had a nice walk up the Miami Bridges Trail and stuff like that. We've been doing that each morning and stuff. So yeah, man, it's been nice and relaxing. I actually, though, yesterday had to run out, do a quick showing, and
Oh,
then
wow.
drive back in. So as staycation, workcation type of deal, but it's nice. Still recharging everything, man. It's good.
Yeah, Harrison is beautiful.
Oh, I
Harrison.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. What's new with you, buddy?
Feeling a little bit under the weather today. I'm not
Oh
too
no,
sure
that's not
what's
good.
going on, but you know what? Had to go to bed a little bit early, woke up or was just had the body chills, just had fever-like symptoms. And it's just like I need to shut this thing down. And today, this morning, I feel like I'm all good to go. So, you know
That's
what?
it.
Yeah, recharge, reset.
That's what it is. As soon as I start feeling sick, that's the first thing I do is like right away get some rest. Oh, and I actually drink some Sunny Delight. I joke around saying that stuff is so radioactive, it kills anything that's inside of you. So as soon as start feeling like I'm getting a cold, I get to sleep early and I drink a jug of Sunny D, and I swear that's my cure to the common cold.
Hey, you know what? They haven't made a cure for the common cold, but you know, if you could patent that Sunny D,
Right? Sunny
you know
D and
what?
sleep.
We may be able to retire together.
Hey man, I'm telling you, we just gotta cut in Sunny D a bit. They're gonna want their cut.
We'll just make it similar to Sunny D, but we'll
There you
rebrand it.
go. That's it. Knock it off and make it better. That's I hear the American way, not the Canadian way, the American way. What do we got on tap, my man? What are we doing today? What are we talking about today?
Well, you know what? I want to go down closing costs. So when we're
Ah,
purchasing
yes.
homes, it's always important to have a good understanding of what your closing costs are, roughly what that's going to be, because a lot of us, Alistair, I'm sure, in this is more your sandbox,
You
is that a
betcha.
lot of people just think the only thing that they need to come up with is a down payment when they're purchasing a home. And there's a lot of I won't say confusion, but a lot of people forget about, hey, there are closing costs, and what are those closing costs and what do they look like? So I felt that this was going to be a really important thing to talk about, because when we are purchasing a home, we're so focused on the down payment, we forget about the closing costs, which are in addition.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Geoff, because that's one of the things that I'm not sure. I go over when we do a discovery call with my clients, we kind of run through all the costs that are associated all the time. So I'm not sure what other of my colleagues do out there, but I'll tell you that's one of the things that is forgotten by many people. And when you're a buyer, when you're kind of going into finding that home and you find that beautiful home and you're ready to make an offer, the only time, if you haven't been exposed to it with your realtor prior, the only time you really know about any type of quote unquote closing costs is when you're signing the contract to buy that home because it's stated at the top. And what's funny is, I know, unfortunately, there's realtors out there that don't even explain that part that they have to initial, which is the costs borne by the buyer. So the cost borne by the buyer, they literally have to initial, right? And the realtors, will just glaze over that. not even explain it at that point to them. So I know that they get to you and they say, what do you mean I need more money? What's happening here? And that's one of, I think, the biggest pitfalls, right? And on the seller's end, right, closing costs, they just think about the commission, right? They're worried about how much commission am I paying, and the realtor spends so much time trying to defend the commission that he's charging, and the client's trying to negotiate the commission coming down, and they forget that there's additional costs that comes into all of this. And again, come to the sale, what do you mean there's additional closing costs to all of this? So to your point, it's so important to take the time to go over this and really understand what makes up these closing costs above the extras that you might have to do, whether it be a home inspection or your commission or what that may look like.
Exactly. So when it comes down to closing costs, I always tell people when asked or if asked, they are always asking, well, how much, right?
Yep.
And on the lending side of things, when we are doing the commitments for mortgages, lenders always want to see 1.5% of the purchase price in order to cover closing costs. So let me give you an example. If you are purchasing a $500,000 home, you can come in with as little as a 5% down payment, which would be 25 grand. But then in addition to that down payment, lenders want to see an additional 1.5% of the purchase price to cover closing costs. So when we're looking at a $500,000 purchase, times that by 1.5%, which is about $7,500. So in addition to your down payment, lenders want to see another $7,500 in order for you to close that purchase. Now, again, what are those closing costs? Great question.
Yeah.
The biggest and baddest closing cost is your property
transfer tax. You betcha. So
the property transfer tax, folks, is your biggest closing cost. And again, what that looks like when you're purchasing something, providing that you're not a first-time home buyer, it's 1% of the first $200,000 of the property's value, 2% of the remainder. And if that property is 1 penny over $2 million, then it's 3% thereafter. So a huge cost. I've worked on, I haven't worked on any files, but I've heard that some people, when they get into the solicitor's office and they are basically signing off on the purchase, the property transfer tax hasn't been discussed with them for whatever reason. And now they have to come up with an X amount of dollars in addition to the down payment and the other closing costs that we're going to talk about. And it's a very stressful thing where actually in some cases the file will collapse because they don't have enough money for the property transfer tax.
Exactly. And again, Geoff, just what you said, something that is so frustrating. It just frustrates me. Like you said, that the property transfer tax that has never been explained. So when we speak about working with somebody that you trust, the majority of us as realtors actually have a property transfer tax calculator that's provided to us by BCREA, right? That you can calculate what the property transfer tax would be on the purchase. So you can inform your client at that time what that number would look like. Now, we can't give you the cost of what your lawyers or your notary is going to be because we don't know who you're choosing, and those numbers vary. But the number doesn't vary for the property transfer tax. So when you put in your purchase price amount and you know that the amount has been accepted, that is your number. And so anybody that you've chosen to represent you, if they've been truly representing you, truly educating, empowering you, advising you, representing you, they would have given you that number and you wouldn't have been in that situation. That's crazy. That is so frustrating. And I've heard those same things with files, colleagues of mine, people didn't know the deal collapsed and yada, yada, yada. And it's one of the most frustrating things. It drives me nuts. Sorry, go on. I'll go off on a tangent on how upset that makes me.
Well, and again, when it comes down to property transfer tax, as we're saying, it is the biggest closing cost that you're going to have. Also, keep in mind, and we've talked about this in the last couple of weeks, that if you are a first-time home buyer, you are possibly exempt from the property transfer tax of up to purchases of up to 835,000 with that sliding scale
Sure.
between 35 and 860. And then again, you are exempt as a first-time home buyer if you're buying a new build that's up to 1.1 million with that sliding scale between 1.1 and 1.15. But property transfer tax, folks, very, 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 very important that if you are in the process of buying a home, if you're thinking about buying a home, make sure that you understand that there is a property transfer tax when you're purchasing property. So again, it's the biggest closing cost, the most important closing cost. And I'm amazed and shocked on how often people are unaware of the property transfer tax.
Yeah. So what's next, man?
Next, legal fees. Keep in mind that when you are purchasing something, you are going to have a legal cost. Now that's going to be in forms of a notary and or in forms of a lawyer, depending on who you are choosing to close your mortgage for you. Now, again, legal costs can range depending on where you are here in Canada or British Columbia, but your legal costs can range anywhere from $800 to $2,000. If you're doing private mortgages, they can even go north of $2,000 because again, when you're doing private mortgages, remember one of those closing costs is that you are paying for your legal costs as well as the lender's legal costs. So that could at times be a bill of up to $4,000 when we're talking about legals. Now,
Right.
if we are just talking about refinances or purchases, then there are legal costs, which are typically, I tell people, around $1,500. But to your point, Allister, that will come down to the notary and or the solicitor that you're choosing to use. And it's always very important that you are asking them what that legal cost is. But more importantly, what is that total cost going to be? Because people will say, well, here are my legal fees plus my disbursements, plus the taxes. And, you know, again, you're thinking, well, legal fees are 800, disbursements. You don't even think about there's going to be a cost on disbursements, you know, and tax, you're thinking, okay, that's normal. But again, disbursements can really increase the cost of the legal side. So you always want to make sure that when you are speaking with your notary, or if you're speaking with your real estate lawyer, ask them what the total legal cost is, including disbursements, so you don't run into any surprises.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Geoff Lee has done in the past. So I am speaking from wisdom. Mortgage insurance, guys, is another closing cost here in Canada. Now, do keep in mind that if you are putting down less than 20%, there is mortgage insurance that is being applied to the mortgage that you are applying for. Mortgage insurance companies are companies that we all have heard of, which is CMHC. Maybe a couple that you haven't heard of, which is Sagan and Canada Guarantee. But do keep in mind that if you are putting down less than 20%, there is going to be a mortgage insurance applied to the mortgage. Now, again, keep in mind that's not money coming out of your pocket. That's money that's going to be capitalized within the mortgage that you are borrowing. And that mortgage insurance ranges anywhere from 2.4 to 4%, depending on what your down payment is. Okay. Home inspection fees.
Yes.
Let's give a shout out to Mr. Home Inspector Daniel Fedozenko.
Fedozenko, absolutely, my man.
So as if you ever come back to that pod, I would encourage everyone that's listening, go to the pod in regards to home inspectors and where we had Daniel Fedozenko as one of our special guests. But again, Allister, like when you are buying the biggest asset of your life, should you not get a home inspection?
There is legitimately zero reason to never do it. Honestly, it's crazy.
Right. It just blows me away that when we're buying a home and the money that we're spending to buy the home is just astronomical. You know, not to be spending money on a home inspection just to make sure that what you're buying is
a sound investment.
Right.
Exactly. That's what I mean. $1.5 million you're putting out there. to not ensure that your investment is safe is just to spend 459, 550, 900, or whatever that dollar amount is to ensure it's safe. It's just, again, beyond me to not protect your investment.
Exactly. And then again, what do home inspections cost? Anywhere from $500 to $1,000, depending on what type of property that's being inspected.
Exactly.
Again, guys, home inspections, so important.
Yeah.
Another closing costs are appraisals. Again, keep in mind when you're putting down 20% or more, there is going to be an appraisal cost that you're going to have to do. It's not all the time, but I'm going to say it's the majority of the time, is that if you are putting down 20% or more on a property that you are buying, there is going to be an appraisal fee. That's going to range anywhere from $300 to $1,500, depending on the type of property and where that property is located. I've seen some appraisals up to $2,000, but these are properties that are being appraised in very remote areas,
locations
where there's travel time and everything else. But I would say a typical appraisal here in the Lower Mainland for a condo, I'm going to say it's roughly around $395. And for a home, a detached home, roughly about $595.
Right?
So always understand, guys, is that if you're putting down 20% or more, there is going to be a condition in that mortgage. I'm going to say 8 out of 10 times that an appraisal is going to have to be done.
Yeah.
People will always ask me, well, why do we need to do an appraisal? Right?
Yep.
The appraisal just verifies the value of the home.
Yeah.
Right? So again, the appraisal is done to verify the value of the home to ensure that purchase price is in line. So again, always keep in mind 20% or more down, 8 out of 10 times there's going to be an appraisal that's as a condition of the mortgage. And again, depending on the property, and let's just talk about the Lower Mainland here. If it's a condo, it's about $395. If it's a house, it's going to be around $595.
$595.
And again, appraisal costs are different to each company. So again, they're not set in stone as far as, hey, I heard a pod and this is what Geoff and Allister said that what the appraisal was. Again, appraisal cost, there is that range depending on the company that's doing it.
That you're choosing. Exactly.
Title insurance.
This is always an interesting one. Yeah.
Title insurance is always a condition of the mortgage. Basically, what title insurance is that it protects you against any issues that may arise towards the property title, such as fraud. Here in Canada, we don't really see a lot of title fraud, but in the United States, we see a lot, right? One of the conditions to the mortgage, again, is title insurance, and that range and that cost can typically go anywhere from $150 to $400. And again, typically it's part of your legal cost, right? So when we talk about what your legals are going to be, the title insurance typically is within that cost. But again, when you are working with your notary or you are working with your real estate lawyer, ask them again what that legal fee is, what the disbursements are going to be, what that title insurance is going to cost, and give you a number at the end, right? There is nothing worse when they say, it's going to be legals plus disbursements plus title insurance plus tax, and you leave it like that. Then you're sitting in front of your notary and or your real estate lawyer paying your bill, and you're like, what?
What happened? Where'd all this money? How did this add up to this? Exactly. What is my total cost at the end of the day? That's what you want to be asking them.
Absolutely. Here's another one that actually gets people a lot by surprise. I'm going to say that this one gets more people by surprise than
the adjustments.
Closing costs is the adjustment costs. So keep in mind, depending on when the property is being purchased and the time of completion, there may be an adjustment cost to property taxes, strata fees, and at times utility bills, right? So again, if these things, like say for your example, if your property taxes have been prepaid by the seller, for the entire year. And now now you purchase this and the completion date is in July, there is going to be money that's going to go back to that seller because they have prepaid the property tax for the entire year, right?
Yeah.
So this is a big one, guys, is always to understand that there are going to be adjustment costs. And usually the biggest adjustment cost is the property tax. And that's if the seller has prepaid those taxes for the year. Again, that's money that's basically going to be needed to be given back to that seller. Likewise, if property taxes haven't been paid, then those also have to be paid for the time that you complete on it moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. GST on new homes, again, guys, if you are buying a new home, GST is a cost. Now, again, this is another cost that's blended into the mortgage that we're going to be setting up for you. It is not an out-of-pocket cost. It is part of the purchase price. Now, depending on who is paying for that GST, there is a full rebate of up to $350,000 on a purchase on a new home. I don't know what new home you're going to buy for $350,000, but again, there
Winnipeg,
is
man. Winnipeg, buddy.
There is a full rebate on it, then a partial rebate if that home is between $350,000 and $450,000. So again, keeping in mind, part of the closing cost is GST. This is a closing cost that is incorporated into the loan amount, becomes part of the purchase price. So again, it isn't necessarily always out of pocket, but there's also a rebate depending on what that purchase price is.
And I do want to pause on that, Geoff, because for those, I have clients that will buy an assignment, right? Or I'll have clients that have bought a new build and they're selling it before it completes, right? An important question that your realtor should be asking or on your behalf is, who is going to be paying that GST, right? Is it going to be that seller when you're buying that assignment, or is it going to be you? Understanding who's paying that GST is very, 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 very crucial coming to the end, so that when you are sitting down, there isn't that miscommunication that the seller was going to be paying the GST, not you, right? So it's very, very important to have that understanding, because sometimes an assignment, when people are buying an assignment, they think that it's just that regular resale where the GST isn't applicable to them, where it's not that case. GST has to be paid once.
Right. So let's even back it up a little bit. Let's explain to me what an assignment purchase is.
Well, like I said, an assignment sale is when somebody has bought a new build and they're deciding to sell it before that property has actually completed. So before the doors and the walls and all that sort of stuff has been put in, and you can move your stuff in, and then that's when you you own it. You get the keys and the occupancy permit, right? So that property, when you get the keys, you got to pay the GST. That's how it goes. So if you've sold it beforehand, that's called an assignment sale. You're assigning that contract. You're buying a piece of paper.
Exactly. And I think it's very important when we talk the shop talk and we talk assignment. It's always really important to break it down into simple terms as far as what
easy
that
math
assignment is.
Yeah, easy lingo. Yes.
Yeah. So again, Allister, question. GST on an assignment, if you have purchased something, you've bought a pre-sale, you're assigning that now to me, right?
Yes.
I'm buying it from you, or you're assigning that purchase to me. Who pays the GST? Is it me, the original, or is it you, the original buyer, or is it me, the new purchaser?
Well, it really depends on the negotiation, but 99.9% of the time, it will be you, the purchaser now, Geoff. Right. 99.9% of the times, it'll be you. Now, sometimes you might find a great offer where the seller, myself, would be willing to pay that GST so you don't have to. But there again, that has to be noted in the contract. 99.9% of the time, it is you, Geoff, that would be paying GST.
Right. So again, comes back to my point is when you are purchasing a home, especially if it's a pre-sale, that you are being represented by a realtor, right?
Yes.
I've seen so many files where people will go into a sales center, purchase a pre-sale unrepresented, and basically, and then once that purchase has completed, that sales center and its service levels have gone from 100 to negative 100 as soon as the papers are signed and dated, right?
Yeah.
So again, folks, if you are in that pre-sale market, you are purchasing things on a pre-sale level, always be represented by a realtor. Your sales center will always tell you, hey, you don't need one.
That's because they don't want you to have one.
They're telling you why you don't need one is because they don't want to pay the commission to that acting realtor. So
exactly.
Again, I've seen so many files where we're acting on it when it's coming to a close with individuals that are not being represented by a realtor when they're doing a pre-sale, and it just really becomes problematic. So again,
that's what I try to sorry, that Jeff, that's what I try to explain to people is buying a pre-sale is not like buying a cell phone. Right? When you go buy a cell phone, that's when you sit down and you have the person at Rogers or TELUS or whomever write out the contract, read you the contract, and tell you to sit and sign here. Everything's going to be okay. When you're buying a pre-sale, that's not how you want it to work.
Exactly. And just to, before we do our 30-second wrap up.
Ryan, wrap up?
The rapid roundup. Rapid wrap up. Say that 5 times fast. Like anything, budget for your closing costs.
Yes.
Right?
So
budget
important.
For your closing costs. If you are looking at a purchase of 900,000, like we talked about, take that 900,000 times that by 1.5%, and that's going to give you an understanding as far as what that closing cost is going to be.
Yeah.
Get pre-approved for a mortgage. Understand what you're going to be pre-approved for, because then that's also going to determine what that closing cost is going to be. If you're going to get pre-approved, let's get jiggy with it. You're getting approved for 700,000. Again, times that by 1.5%, which is 10,500. That's what you need to budget for your closing costs, right? Work with a knowledgeable real estate agent.
Thank you, Jeff. That's what I was going to say. And mortgage broker, please.
Right.
Please. So that they can help you understand those costs. That is what I was going to say. That's my key takeaway before we get to the 30-second wrap up. Right. I just wanted to say that my key takeaway here is please work with somebody that you trust. That is why we take the time to bring you people like Daniel Fedosenko, like we take the time to bring you Grant Sauer, who was a notary. And I encourage you guys to go back to listen to that pod as well, so you can learn the differences between what a notary does and what a lawyer does, so that you can help understand who might fit your needs best. But this is what's so important, to have people behind you that help you understand all these costs at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Go on, Jeff. I'm sorry for interrupting, but that's my key takeaway on all of this.
Exactly. So we ready for the 30-second wrap up?
Absolutely. The rapid wrap up, baby.
Rapid wrap up. All right. Give me a timer. Okay. Here we go.
I got it. Let's roll.
Closing costs. Always make sure that you understand, including your down payment, there is going to be closing costs. If you want to understand as far as what that closing cost is going to be, take the purchase price of what you're looking at, times it by 1.5%. That's going to give you an understanding as far as what those closing costs are going to be, including what are those closing costs? Property transfer tax. Remember, if you're a first-time home buyer, you may be exempt to the property transfer tax. But again, if you are not a first-time home buyer, there is that property transfer tax, which is your biggest closing cost, which is 1% on the first 200,000. 2% on the remainder. And as soon as that purchase goes 1 penny over $2 million, it's 3% on the thereafter. There's legal fees and disbursements. Again, pending if you're working with a notary and or a lawyer, make sure that you ask what the total cost of legal fees are going to be, including disbursements, including tax, including title insurance, so you're not going to have any surprises. Typically, those costs are around $1,500. Mortgage insurance. This is not an out-of-pocket expense. This is an insurance cost when you're putting down less than 20%. CMHC, Sagan, and Canada Guarantee are the three Canadian insurers here, and those And whatever that mortgage insurance is going to be, which is going to be anywhere from 2.4 to 4%, depending on the down payment, that's going to become part of the mortgage that we're going to get you. Home inspection fees going to range anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Again, guys, when you are buying the biggest asset of your life, get it inspected, make sure that it has good bones, and make sure that you are not buying a lemon. Lots of us have done that in the past. Don't let that be you. Appraisal fees, understand that if you're putting down 20% or more, 8 out of 10 times, there is going to be a condition from the lender that an appraisal is going to be done. That's going to range anywhere from, I'm going to say here in the greater Vancouver area, $395 for a condo, $595 for a house. But again, if you are in a remote area, that appraisal could run you up to $1,500 and then some. Title insurance becomes part of your legal cost. That just protects you against any issues that may arise from the property's title, such as fraud. And the most important one that gets most people by surprise is the adjustment cost, which again typically surrounds property taxes and sometimes strata fees. So again, 1.5% of the purchase price. Budget for these. Work with reputable people in your power team. And again, last but not least is the GST, again, which also factors in to become part of the purchase price. It is not an out-of-pocket expense. And do keep in mind, depending on who's paying that GST, there is a rebate that you're going to get. If it's $350,000, there's going to be a full rebate and then a partial rebate if that is between $350,000 to $450,000. I know that was way longer than 30 seconds, but you know what?
That's okay.
Who's counting?
No, I let the timer go, man. Don't worry. That was important. That was amazing. You did fantastic, Geoff. You did fantastic.
I feel like an auctioneer there, and then I start thinking about things too much, and then it's like, okay, I better slow things down here a little bit.
Nah, man, it was perfect. It was perfect. But no, man, it is so important. Like just again, please work with reputable people. Please make sure that the people that you're working with are always educating you and giving you all the information you need, because that is the only way that you are going to be successful in your purchase. That is the only way you are going to be successful in your journey. And that is the only way you are going to achieve your dreams, is by having the right people behind you, educating you with the right education. So amazing, folks. Thank you guys, as always, for taking the time to listen. Today, Geoff and I are, like I said, so appreciative of you guys always. Please make sure, again, you download us, share us, tell the world about us. Continue to give us your comments so that we can continue to make ourselves better for you guys. We always hope that the information that we deliver to you is valuable. Again, please go back to some of the other pods and listen to the episode with Grant Sauer, listen to the episode with Daniel. We will continue to bring you other people out there in the marketplace aside from us that will help you accomplish your dreams and your desires. And for myself, I got to roll because I got to take the kids to Castle Fun Park, and they're probably standing in the lobby right now with their stuff saying, "Dad, are you not done yet?" So everybody, thank you so much for listening. Geoff and I, again, couldn't be more blessed and couldn't be more humbled and grateful for you guys taking the time to listen to us every Wednesday. Actually, listen to us every Thursday, because that's when it gets posted. So thank you guys for listening. You guys have an amazing rest of the weekend and weekend, and we'll chat at you next week. Take it easy.
Y'all have a nice day.
All right. Bye now.